Hi, everybody. It's Julie Huck with the Agent of Change platform and the Ed Huck team. And today I have a really special guest. I have Mary Spentoff with Petros Homes today. And we are going to be talking about a topic that is really near and dear to my heart, agents and builder relationships and how we can work together. And so, Mary, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. As Julie mentioned, I work for Petros Homes, so one of the largest local custom builders in the Northeast Ohio market. I have been in the new construction business though for over 20 years, always on the sales side of things. So I sold new construction and then was a manager and a VP of sales, an online sales consultant, all within the same organization. And I've been with Petros Homes for quite some time now, and I'm in their sales and marketing department as well. So it's a pleasure to be here with you.
That's awesome. And that is a tremendous amount of new home experience. I started my real estate career in the new home world. And so I do have a background selling new homes. And I kind of have a funny story because that's actually where I met Ed, was in my model home. I was working for Cough Builders in Avon Lake. And so the Ed came in, actually he didn't come in, his clients came in without him. And we all know what that means, right? They came in without him. They wanted to build a really big, beautiful home. And then after the fact, they mentioned that they were working with this Ed Huck, who I had never met. And I really wanted to sell this very large, beautiful home to them. And so I kind of knew that I wanted to partner with Ed because I knew that if we partnered together, we could really help the client at the highest level, right, Mary? Because
Yes.
isn't that
Yes.
the truth in what we're going to be talking about today, right?
Yes, it is.
And so anyways, I called Ed and said, don't worry, I know you didn't register your clients, you weren't here on the first appointment, but I'm going to honor you. And he was very excited about that, obviously. And after that, the rest was history. Actually, it's a long story, but you guys can call me later and I'll tell you all the fun details. But the funniest part of this whole thing too was that when I was working in new construction, I spent about 6 years selling new homes. And I, I had a lot of really good experiences with real estate agents. And overall, I had a lot of bad experiences. And I kind of had a joke that, I really didn't love real estate agents. And then I started dating a real estate agent. Then I married a real estate agent. And then I became a real estate agent. And of course, now I love real estate agents. So Mary, can you tell me why I had that joke and why there might be, a little bit of friction in between the industries and working together?
Sure. And I think, it's funny, Julie, because now you've got perspective on both sides, right?
Right.
I think there can be this perception from both parties that maybe there might be a little bit of a threatening nature there where there's maybe some insecurity about what you don't know. That could be on the new construction side and vice versa. On the real estate side, they may not know enough about what they're showing or what their client is interested in on the new construction side. And the new construction agent may not have as much knowledge about the resale market. And also that realtor often has spent a lot of time with that client. And so they've built a relationship and a rapport. So I think initially there is this kind of push-pull, who is in charge of the client and how is this going to work? And nobody wants to sabotage either party's potential of, finding this client a home.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And you put it really kindly in terms of, the agent already has that rapport. And so I think that they're worried about just either not offering enough value. I've heard some of my team members say, hey, my clients are going to see a new construction. I'm going to show up at the meeting. How can I show and prove my value?
Yes. And I think that is something maybe we can squelch today. So as a real estate agent, you have built value for that client by just even bringing them to the builder, because knowing that that could be a viable option for that client, you have done your due diligence in getting them there, and you've probably provided a wealth of information to them prior to that point. And so our mission, our goal as the new sales person is to work collaboratively with the real estate agent. And we can reiterate to that client the value that the realtor brought, and all their knowledge and expertise selling homes for the amount of time that they have, and their knowledge about the resale market. That all plays into their decision-making on new construction as well. So I think that's a really important point, that they don't need to continue to feel like they're not providing enough value when they start to show new construction.
Right. And I think too, it's just, it's like, well, I'm not going to provide enough value. Will I even get paid? What if my clients, are they going to get the best deal? How can I negotiate on their behalf? And I think we can talk about all of that stuff as we're talking about how we can best work together.
Sure.
And I think you're 100% right. Let's stop that right then and there, because I think the best partnerships that I ever had with real estate agents is when they walked in and said, you know what? I am going to hand it over to the new home sales rep. They know everything about this product, about this home, and about, they can share with you what they know and, go for it. And then they stepped back. And that was usually the best partnership.
Yes, I agree. And on the flip side, the new construction agent can do that, because oftentimes that same client may have some concerns about, well, what about selling my home? What about the timing? How does this work? And we can defer them back to, listen, we know a lot about this side, but
Right.
your real estate agent is the expert on all of that. And they will be able to kind of walk you through that side of the process. So I do think there is a partnership there that goes both ways.
Absolutely. And so we all have a common mission, right? And the common mission is to help the clients, find the best home for them in their situation, right?
Absolutely.
And to get them into a house that best fits them. And if we've ended up at a new construction community, then hopefully that's what that is.
That's right.
And we're going to partner together. So I guess what are some best practices? Can you just talk to us about, what you've seen work, and how as an agent I can best, approach a new construction neighborhood and a new construction sales rep with confidence?
Yes. So the first best practice is to always assume that your clients are going to look at new construction.
Yeah.
I would start there, because we have all been in a spot where I only want something that's ready in 30 days. I only want something that's in this area. And what happens, especially in a market like today, is they are forced to expand their search when they don't find what they want. And ultimately, if you just assume that they're going to look at new construction and be proactive on that, that is one of the best practices. Because then if that real estate agent can get ahead and contact the builders that that client may consider, then we can provide that real estate agent with as much information as they want,
Right.
So that they're prepared coming in as well. I don't think the client is ever going to expect the real estate agent's going to know everything about the builder, right? No. But we would welcome the real estate agent to come in early, tour the model, send her all the included features, pricing, lot maps, whatever that would make them feel more comfortable prior to an initial visit, we're happy to do. Or if that agent feels like, hey, I just wanted to get to know you and tell you a little bit about what my client's looking for, that's great too. But we'll try and arm you with as much as you need to be confident in bringing your client.
Well, and that is one of the questions that we ask our clients when we first meet them. We always have a buyer consultation or a buyer strategy session. And for that exact reason, it's, have you ever considered new construction? Would you ever consider new construction if I could show you neighborhoods that might fit your needs? And then if they even say yes, maybe, that's our cue to say, okay, what is their price point? What areas are they looking? And what new construction communities exist?
Yes.
And I love that. Just be proactive, call the neighborhoods, stop over, see what's going on in there. Because I know that for personally myself, and probably for most people listening today, you have had that moment where it's like, uh-oh, my clients just signed off on a new construction home after I've just spent months showing them houses, and it's
Yes.
too late.
Yes. And, the sales consultants on the new construction side can relate to that, because as
Mhm.
often as you work with buyers, sometimes for, 2 years, the salesperson has likely been in that position also where they've spent, months or years with the same customer who does not end up buying. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And so we can relate to that. We don't want that ever to be the case. We know how hard the real estate community works on behalf of their client. But it's really important to understand that it's not the builder's MO to cut a realtor out of a deal. It does not change, at least from my experience of the builders I've worked with, it does not change the sales price, the incentive a buyer gets.
Right.
We look forward to collaborating with the real estate community. But just as you spend money paying for leads, I'm sure, and doing your marketing and advertising, so does the builder. And so the whole point of the compensation is because the agent was the procuring cause. They brought the client to the builder.
Right.
And that's why that is such a strong policy, because otherwise it gets real sketchy sometimes. And sometimes the buyer doesn't even acknowledge that. Not, sometimes inadvertently, not consciously thinking about it. They don't even know how it works.
Right.
So we don't ever want to put them in an awkward spot either. But I think just being proactive in that front.
Well, it's all about education. It's all about educating the general public, because I mean, the same way that clients don't know that if they pop into an open house,
Right.
that agent is going to be the agent that represents them. I can't then go write an offer. And it is a little bit tricky when you're talking to clients about these things, which is why it's always absolutely the best time to do this is when you're having a consultation.
Yes.
Because it's all about just educating them and sharing the things that could happen and how everything works and what this, how this industry operates. Because even if they've bought a few different homes, you just always assume they don't know.
Yes. Yes, I agree. And you mentioned, asking the buyers, would you ever consider new construction? When I think is great that you do that and you have such a thorough initial process. I would tell you that even if they say no, you could say, at this time, it sounds like that's not an option for you. In this market, we've seen folks who started off that way and ended up, considering it. So I'm going to go ahead and call a couple of the builders in the area and just register you. And if you decide that this becomes something you want to consider, let me know and we'll make sure, I have connections in the real estate or in the new construction industry. I know how the process works. So I'll be sure to call on your behalf and get everything set up should you decide to look at new construction. So I think if you just default back to the agent, again, being the expert on how this process works, it sets them up to go, oh, I need to call Julie because now I do want to go look at blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely. 100%. And I would say too, right now, from what I'm seeing, builders are building a lot of houses and they have their foot on the gas, pedal to the metal, trying to get some inventory out there, trying to develop neighborhoods. I know there's a bunch of new neighborhoods coming up, which you can definitely share with us. And we don't have a lot of inventory to sell. So we really, really need to be partnering with builders right now, and figuring out what opportunities are there out there for our clients to get into instead of only looking at resale, because I think we are actually hurting our clients' success and our own if we're not really knowledgeable about what is happening in the new construction world. We all need to be part of this together.
Yes, and vice versa, because it helps us to know what's going on in the resale market, right? And even helping educate the customers that come to us about selling their property. How long is it taking? What are you guys seeing? And so that's where that collaboration really benefits the client. They get the full circle experience and level of, professional expertise that they deserve. I think the other thing, Julie, that we're really trying to do as builders, and we welcome, some of the best practices I've seen. I think even some agents from your office have come out and said, hey, we just want to tour your model. Can we tour something under construction? And I don't have anybody today, but I want to know a little bit more about this product in case I do, and so anytime we're trying to do a lot of new construction seminars, lunch and learns to really help educate the real estate agents about, new construction, what's available. So if there's anything ever a need that we haven't provided yet, we welcome that.
And I was curious, I want to keep talking about, the best practices and how we can work together. One of the things I've been hearing from just team members, we have weekly sales trainings and we're always talking about, what we're doing out there in the field. And some of them are saying, it's not a bad idea to partner with real new construction because some of these neighborhoods have waiting lists before the ground even breaks because of how low the inventory levels are. And so to get on a builder's list, I mean, do you recommend that too, in terms of just us building our relationships together?
Yes, absolutely. So that you're in the know of what's going on. And I think there's a lot, builders do try and do a lot of email communications to the real estate agents, whether it's, inventory homes available or a new community coming soon. On the coming soon communities, it is really important still to register your potential clients on that, because there's a situation where oftentimes those clients rush to sign up. And it's really hard for a builder to sort through, 700 prospects on who does and doesn't have a real estate agent if it wasn't noted up front.
Right.
So that is definitely a best practice to make sure you're doing.
Yes. So what other things, what other suggestions do you have for us as agents, so that we can work really well together?
Well, I guess I do have a question for you. Do you and your agents utilize New Home Source Professional?
I've never heard of it.
Okay. So New Home
tell me more
Source.
about this.
Yeah. New Home Source is a website where not all, but the majority of new construction is listed. That's available. And New Home Source Professional is the real estate version of that website. And so any agents, they do a lot of training and webinars. And then, anything that's on the MLS is typically also found on New Home Source. But there's also, let's say there's a listing in XYZ community. There's also a link to that community page so you could see if there's anything else that might work for that customer. So it's a really great resource for all things new construction.
So do you think, I guess right now, as an agent, say, I'm looking on the MLS, I'm hoping that homes in new communities are listed, and sometimes they're not. Especially if there's a high demand, the builders don't list them online on the MLS. Other than going and visiting, new home communities, or, becoming good friends with someone like Mary or different new home specialists, is that where I need to go?
Yes.
And how often do I go? Do I go there like I was going on the MLS to look for houses? Is that kind of how it works?
You could, and agents can sign up to get the regular updates or alerts, or it really is very robust. So I would say that's a great resource for the agents. And then, just as you mentioned, I think the builder reps are very eager to work with real estate agents also. So I think even just getting on to there's only a handful really of, regional, national, and a couple of local custom builders. And so if you know your general area that you're doing business in, reaching out to those sales reps and popping into a model or picking up some information. And again, we'd be happy to even schedule something for your entire team, anything like that to keep you abreast. Jumping on our interest list is definitely, those are all ways to stay in the know.
So you call it an interest list. So if I was to call any builder, I could say, hey, this is Julie Huck with the Ed Huck team. I really want to get on your interest list so that I know what your company's, putting in my area, and I can service my clients. And then I will just get on an email list. Is that how that works?
Yes. So every builder is a little different that way. We have a general realtor list where they would get everything and anything that is coming through. And then if you said, I really only want updates for these particular, the West Side, Avon, Westlake, and anything you have on that side of town, then we can make sure we have you in those specific communities. So any updates on those neighborhoods you would receive.
Okay,
yes.
Cool. So New Home Source
Professional. Yes.
Is it like newhomesource.com, newhomesourceprofessional.com?
I'm not sure on the professional what the actual address is, but I can send it to you, Julie.
Sure.
I know the New Home Source is just the consumer interface. the new home source professional is specifically designed for the agents.
Okay. Wow. So that's something new. I had no idea existed. I
Okay.
don't know if anyone on my team knows it exists, but I'm very excited to share that with them,
Great.
and with you guys. And if you send me that website, I'll make sure it goes in the notes of this video as well.
Okay, I
So that
will.
we can link. I'm sure we can find it.
Yeah.
So that's awesome, because I know as a real estate agent, sometimes it is kind of overwhelming
Yes.
to think like, I don't even know how to stay up to date
Yes.
with all the different things that are going on in the communities.
Yes.
So,
Understandably so.
okay, cool. And you're willing to come visit, you're willing to, have conversations.
Yes. Host your meetings,
Okay.
models, or if you said, hey, I've got a few agents who are really hungry to know about, new construction or want to come do some tours. Could you we even have done a couple of things where we set up our field manager, our construction manager, and we can keep it as short as, 20 minutes, half hour, and point out a couple of things for agents to be looking for when they're showing new construction.
Mm.
I mean, anything that's, relevant or that you feel like your team could use more of, we're happy to do that.
Okay, that's awesome. So what other ways can we work together?
I think the other thing, Julie, would be, I know it's not always possible, but we really do advocate for the agent being present on the first visit with the client. And I think what that does for everybody is we want to ensure the agent is in the know of what this buyer is looking at and what the process looks like. We also know the realtor has had a great, has that relationship with the buyer. So we want that transition, and they typically know most about what the buyer is looking for. So it just makes for a smoother handoff and partnership.
Okay.
So I would just say that's a best practice. We know that you are incredibly busy. And so if you cannot make it on the first visit, we just ask that you call ahead and register and let us know that, once that appointment's set, and we'll account for that accordingly.
So say for instance, I have a client and we set up a first visit, and I'm going to be present with my client. And like, as an agent, because I've had this question asked to me a number of times, what do I do at that appointment?
What do you do at it?
What do I say? What do I do? How do I behave? How do I add value and not lose my control? All of those things are the questions that agents have. Like, what is that going to look like?
Yes. So I think oftentimes we may assume that we have to talk, point things out, lead the way so that the buyer feels like we know what we're talking about. But I think the buyer also respects maybe more that you acknowledge this. I'm not going to know everything about this product. That's why there are builder sales representatives, and we work together all the time. And so maybe just acknowledging to that client, I am going to be your expert on all things resale.
Mm-hmm.
I will support you, and I will probably have a few questions that maybe you didn't think about or think to ask in this process. But when we arrive, I'm going to defer to the new home sales consultant, and then we can collaborate afterwards and determine if there's anything that you missed or that I maybe missed, and I'll follow up with that sales rep for you to make sure we get the information you need. I think the buyer understands that and respects it maybe a little bit more.
I love that. Is absolutely perfect and such good advice, because we do that with our lender partners. We do that with our home inspector partners. I mean, I'm not a lender. That is not my specialty, but we partner and we collaborate together. And I think that's awesome. And to have that conversation before we show up.
Yes.
And just set that expectation because I think they probably would love to have an expectation of what it's going to look like as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no harm too in calling the sales rep before and saying like, hey, what should I expect at this first meeting? How do you want me involved? What's your process like? And we can kind of have that same conversation with them also.
Yeah.
We want them to feel comfortable coming in the door too. So
sure, absolutely. So okay, I'm going to ask the question because I get it again all the time from real estate agents is, how do we help our clients negotiate? Because we're so stuck in this resale world of purchase price and negotiating the best deal. What does that look like when we're working with new construction? And how can we negotiate, advocate for our clients in new construction?
That's a great question. And I'm going to pose it back to you just for a moment. How much negotiating down is happening on the resale market right now?
Good question.
Not much, is there? I think you got to look at it that way, right? Everything is in demand today.
Right.
And so I think what we would definitely appreciate is if after we've determined that we've found the right home in the right community, if you have questions about that, in most cases in new construction, there is not negotiating, especially today.
Right.
There's such limited, like we look at the resale market and say there's such limited inventory. The builders feel the same way about their projects. There is not land at the same price around every corner. So in most cases, the builders don't want to blow through their properties because there's not the backup right down the street anymore, that's as easy with those same terms to be able to backfill that project. So there's very little to no negotiating. I know at Petros, we have none going on right now. And in a lot of builders, the only negotiations are if they are running an incentive, you're going to know about it. It's either on their website or they're going to talk to you about it up front. So I think maybe contacting the sales associate in advance or after your meeting without putting the buyer in that spot. Because what will happen is ultimately there'll be disappointment if there's some tone that there is negotiation and then we squelch it right there, like not going to happen. Let's have that conversation, internally. And that's not to say, Julie, that if you came to us and said, hey, buyer really, really loves it, we're about $10,000 higher than where they want to be, is there anything you can do? Personally, again, to the agent, to the sales rep, not in front of the buyer.
Right.
And the agent's going to do their best to make this work for everybody. But there's a strong chance, and they'll be upfront with you, like, I really appreciate you asking that, but there is no incentive or negotiating here. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I think, just understanding the incentives of the community. I think a lot of different builders and communities might have some different incentives right now just to kind of hook people in the door. But it's not.
Vary. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of it has to do around financing. Do you guys do that too? I mean,
yes.
At Petros? Okay.
Yes.
So, and that's something to, again, just as a real estate agent, just educate yourself. Maybe educate yourself before you even speak about things with your client. Don't say things that you don't know. Don't act like you're going to be a hero at the end and negotiate this huge deal to prove your value. Because at the end of the day, I mean, if the client really wants that house, what we want to do is just help them get into that house.
Yes. And that's your value, right?
And to in this market, to just get that house. I mean, I know those are the conversations we're having around resale in our, strategy sessions are, hey, here's what this market looks like. Here's what the expectation is. And we can set that expectation for new construction as well. Here's what the new construction, platform looks like. They're building homes as fast as they can. There's not a lot of land. There's still not a lot of inventory. And so they're not wheeling and dealing the same way that sellers aren't wheeling and dealing in the resale market.
Yes.
And
costs, Julie, I think it's
costs are still high. Yeah.
That the agents understand the dynamics behind the materials and labor. They're going nowhere but up. So it makes it really challenging to just even hold serve on our pricing, let alone discount, right? So, or negotiate, because a lot of times too, these builders are selling 12 months out. Well, that pricing is fluctuating. And so they can't take the chance of, slashing $10,000 only to be up $20,000, halfway through that process. So that labor and material costs, unfortunately, are not coming down.
Yeah. Right. And it's just the reality of where we're at right now. And so, it just, is one of those situations where we can really partner together if we keep a very open mind. We realize that we are not the expert in all things. We do not need to be in control of everything in every moment. And at the end of the day, we just really want to serve our clients at the highest level we can.
Yes.
So how, what other advice or what other things do we need to know as agents, or anything else that I missed, Mary, that comes up a lot on your side, or things that you want agents to know, to do or not do?
Yeah. So I think just one small caveat, because not everybody knows this either, is oftentimes with a builder, there's a lot of things that are community specific. So it's really important that you don't generalize. Like if your buyers are looking in one neighborhood and decide to look at another, the things that come standard in those homes, the pricing, maybe the lot structure, there's a lot of nuances that go with that. And so sometimes our sales rep assume that that. But I think it's important to know that, what is specific to this neighborhood that I need to know about. And if they switch communities, which happens a lot, because with a lot of builders, you've got neighborhoods within, a close vicinity to each other. It's important to ask those questions. And that's a great way to add value to your buyers too, to say, hey, I know we registered you over here. Make sure if you're looking over here, you ask what changes apply. Because that does exist, and we don't want buyers to be confused or misled on what is what.
Sure. Yeah, because like even just the standard of house or the standard of finish that's included in the base price and all of those things are so, there is so intricate, the whole process, and it really isn't as simple as walking into a resale home and saying, do I like it? Do I not? Having an inspection and moving forward. It really is complicated, and there's so many steps of the process. And so, the more people involved and the more understanding that we have, and the more knowledge that we have, the better we'll serve our clients. And I am excited to share this. I'm so excited to share some of the information you shared with me today. And we love Mary. We love our partnership. And I have been seeing a tremendous amount of new homes, coming under contract with our team. And I think, like I said earlier, for the mere reason that we just need to find houses for our clients.
Yes.
Is there anything fun and exciting that Petros has coming up that we should know about?
Yeah, that's a great question, Julie. And I do have one for you too, before we finish up.
Oh, sure.
So the one thing I would say is we definitely have some inventory homes, and most builders do. So you mentioned like, hey, it's a little bit easier for our clients and for the realtor to walk into an existing home. What you see is what you get, right? There is a lot of inventory homes, either finished or near finished, on the market, that your client can kind of have a very similar experience, where you pretty well can see what's coming, and those may deliver in 30 days to, by the end of the year, for example. So I would keep that in mind. As far as new projects going on or coming on board. So on the west side, we are wrapping up our Weston Point community there off of Center Ridge. We have the luxury development of Burr Oak that is adjacent to Avon Oaks Country Club. I don't know how familiar you guys are with that, but we are selling like crazy in there, and we are down to our last probably 5 or 6 home sites in there.
Okay.
Now those are, 1.1 million and up. We've got a beautiful community in Avon, right on the Westlake Avon border. And then we've got a new neighborhood. It's maybe a little further than your side of town. It's in Broadview Heights, but it's right across the street from Michelangelo's Winery.
Okay.
I don't know how familiar you are with that, but it's a big destination for a lot of people, and we'll be directly across the street. So there's been a lot of buzz about that.
Awesome.
We're just starting development, and we're hoping to have roads in by the end of the year.
Cool. That's
and then
exciting.
we've got some things brewing on the west side. Oh, Brentwood is also 5 lots in Westlake off of Center Ridge, west of Crocker Road.
Okay.
Available for a custom build, brand new. We've got 2 already accounted for. But that's a great option too.
That's just down. I live like I could walk there.
Okay.
Yes. I'll come see you.
Okay, please do.
Or the rep there, whoever.
Yeah,
it's
a pretty unique little spot there, and
our
reps are selling from their existing models. But I guess my question for you, Julie, is what could the builders be doing to help the real estate agents in today's market?
I think it's really just knowing what's available. I think that's
Okay.
always our biggest struggle, just because we're so used to just going to the MLS. I mean, that's just how we're trained. That's what we do day in and day out.
Yes.
And so it really is a whole nother like added level of, consciousness of going to different, I think a lot of the struggle is I have to go call this person, call that person. Is that neighborhood even still building anymore? I have no idea. So understanding that, staying up to date, which it sounds like you gave us a really good tool to aid with that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think New Home Source will do a lot of good. And then even going to the builders' websites, you don't
Yeah.
have to get lost in there. I think in most cases, if you just, most builders have a drop down for the cities that they're
Okay.
building in. And just even before you click on anything, you can see, okay, they're in Westlake, Avon, blah, 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 oh, these two could be a possibility. Let me click on those. And
Mhm.
then you can just email the agent direct from there and say, do you have time for a quick call, or what do you have here? But they can quickly get a snapshot on where those builders are currently building. And then also paying attention to, for example, at Petros, we have a build on your lot. Some of the builders can build on, a customer's own property. So those are always options too.
And I would say, a second challenge that agents have when they're working with their clients is, you see a neighborhood, you go on the website and it says starting at, I mean, I think what we just need to know is realistically,
Yeah.
where are we ending up? What are we actually looking at before I drag my clients, let them fall in love with a beautiful brand new house, and then they can't afford it, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
That's a
how do we
great
deal with
point.
that?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think, setting the expectations with the clients that you are going to see advertised base prices. I can tell you that it does vary by builder, how far over those prices,
Right. Right.
some of these clients go. The inventory homes, that's the beauty of those. The
Right.
price where they are, unless there's still selections to be made, is where it is. So that's always a great place to start. And it's a great way to get an idea of average transactions,
Mhm.
because oftentimes in the inventory homes, we're putting in what most buyers are choosing.
Yeah.
So you kind of get a feel for, okay, and most of the websites, they're going to have their quick move-ins listed, and you'll see a sales price, not a base price. So you can start to get a feel for where they're transacting at. Again, even calling the buyers or the new construction agent and just saying, what realistically is the average in here?
Yeah. What's
What's
the
the lowest
average?
my buyers could get in for, with a few, etc. And we'd be happy to share that. I would even give you a range today, but it's so dependent on the neighborhood.
Sure, absolutely. And that's helpful. I mean, it's just, looking at the inventory homes, going to the builder's website, calling the builder's reps, just asking them, before you send your clients there, what's the average? If my client's approved for X, we want to be real careful on where we send them.
Sure.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna send them to Burr Oak if
Yeah.
they can only afford max 900.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
And we do end up, sometimes we'll have clients that reach out about that neighborhood and they're like, "Ooh, yeah, that's higher than I wanted to be." Okay, well, we have one 3 minutes down the road that starts in the mid sixes and gets up to 9. Would you want to consider that? Yeah. So even calling, you may find that while that neighborhood doesn't cut it, there might be another one that does, that serves their needs.
Perfect, which is awesome. And I know once you have those relationships, it's really easy to make those calls. And that's what I always preach is just get to know the builders reps. Bring them coffee and treats.
And we do the same thing, we say the same thing to our sales consultants. And I think there's this little bit of like, I don't know if they really want to do coffee or if they would really even want it, So I think if we both approach it that way and say, hey, come on out to the model,
Yeah.
or we'll grab you Starbucks or whatever, or we'll pop into your office and give you a couple of things. But I think just letting that guard down a little bit and truly getting to know that, okay, if I have a question, I can at least call this sales rep at Petros and she can tell me if she can't tell, if it's not about her neighborhood, she'll get me to the right place.
Right.
So just even having a contact at each builder is a huge, huge advantage.
And it doesn't hurt to share with those builders reps just what your value proposition is and what you
Yes.
specialize in, and the types of sellers that you're helping at a high level. And that way, if they do have people that need help, they can know that you're a resource for them. And
Absolutely.
that's really what makes it a collaboration, a partnership, and helps us to work together, you know, at a higher level to, you know, to help our
Yes.
clients. So
Agree
yes.
100%. Yeah. And I think, you know, last, there are no dumb questions. So
Sure.
we never want the realtor to feel stupid asking like, well, wait a minute, if they close on, do they close on the lot? How does that work? Or is there, there are none. We don't expect that you would, you know a lot of this. A lot of the sales reps have gone through some really rigorous training, just like you have on the resale side. So I think that's really important, that there's never a question that's not welcomed.
Yeah. Well, Mary, this has been really awesome. I've learned so much. And I am very excited to share this with everybody. And hopefully you will just be flooded with real estate agents bringing clients to your neighborhoods, because now we are all just so much more informed. And
yeah, I hope so. And I hope that we can, your agents will feel comfortable, or any of the real estate agents will feel comfortable calling myself up, or any of the builder reps, knowing that we are really here to work together. So I really appreciate your time and for having me on today.
All right, Mary, thank you so much. And
you.
you have an awesome day.
Thanks. You too,
All
Julie.
right, take care.
Bye.